Hey everyone, it's Onno here, and today we are going to learn how to integrate a spam detection engine with Webflow forms. Now, this engine here contains an LLM that basically reads the content of your form and decides whether or not if it's a legitimate or a spam submission coming through to your site. This is a super ideal solution for sites that are absolutely riddled with spammy submissions coming in on a regular basis, even though they have installed bot protection services on those forms. And the best part about this entire setup is that you get to do this for free. This is all possible using Cloudflare. So without any further ado, let's jump on to our demo here so I can show you what we have on hand. So we have a simple contact us form, and that's essentially what these spammers really require. Just a very simple form and easily accessible forms. So again, this entire form is using Webflow's native forms. Nothing too fancy about it, but it is connected to the engine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use about 5 or 6 examples of spammy submissions just to show you what this actually looks like. Off screen, I have a few examples that I'm going to copy paste from, but rather than doing that, here's the first example. Let me just smash in some random characters here. And throughout this entire form, I think it's just the first name, last name, and the email that is marked as required. The other fields are just blank. So if I try submitting this, now what's exactly happening is that the form is submitting that over to Cloudflare, and then Cloudflare, because the LLM is inside Cloudflare, it processes that, and then it returns the results, whether it's successful or it has failed. In this case, it has failed because your message couldn't be sent. Please ensure all fields are filled with valid information. Now, one thing to note here is that the LLM doesn't specify what the issue is, and because we don't want the spammers to know what the issue is. Otherwise, they're just going to start correcting their form submissions. So over on Cloudflare, we have a separate table database set up. And of course, I'm going to walk you through all that in just a bit. What I'm going to do is hit over here, D1 SQL, and this is where we store all our form submissions, whether it's successful or it's failed. We're logging in everything. So if I click into this form database here and click here one more time, so we have 2 tables. We have clean form submissions and spam form submissions. So because our form has failed, here is the table. And over here, it contains the entire form data that we've just sent through. And what we're looking at is right over here. So it scored a spam score of 100, spam threshold is 70, blocked reason is spam detected, the AI verdict is spam, AI confidence is 92, and then the AI also provides us a reason as to why it blocked it. So it says first name, last name are random character strings, which is an instant spam indicator per the rules. Now, going back to our form again, I'm going to reload this. All right. Now, under the hood, there are a lot of interesting things going on. And I think the best way to show that would be to show you guys how the form is actually set up in Cloudflare, in Webflow, sorry. So again, like I mentioned, we're just using a simple form block here. And then inside if I actually click on the main form block, you'll notice that we have a few attributes here. This entire thing is basically an attribute setup. We only have 3 attributes here, and then each and every input also has an attribute. Well, they actually have 2 attributes here. I'm going to walk you through what those attributes are and the setup in just a bit. But yeah, just wanted to show you that we actually don't have anything fancy going on here. It's just a bunch of inputs. We have attached attributes to it, but the actual button, the form submit button, is using a custom HTML element. That's because for this setup to be 100% efficient, you actually have to use an actual button and not one of the link elements that Webflow uses for their forms. So yeah, that's one of those things. And another thing is that we have our own custom-made error element. So if I click here and remove the combo class, so yeah, then that custom error element that you see on the live site, that's coming from here. other than that, that's pretty much it. We don't have any hidden inputs. We don't have anything like that. And if I show you the, actually, let me try reloading this page because generally my FinSuite extension loads up. There we go. And if I take you to the custom code, we only have this one script here. The script on the bottom is just basically from my local machine, so you can ignore that. But yeah, we only have one script here, and this script covers 5 major things. I'm going to walk you through all that right now. So the first major thing it does is it inserts a honeypot into the form directly, and that's coming from the JavaScript. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with honeypots, it's basically a hidden input that is put inside the form. And if there's any bot coming onto your site, and if it fills out the entire form, it would also fill out that hidden honeypot field. And if it does, that's how the system would immediately know that this is a form filled out by a bot. So our engine is straight up going to ignore that. And if I show you here, so if I can find where it is, okay, so it's right there. So that's the one, input type, name honeypot URL. So this is completely hidden. So if this is filled out, that's how the system knows that this is a bot filling this out. So like I mentioned, that I'm going to copy paste some of the submissions that we received. If one of the client sites, the same exact details that they used. For the phone, I'm just going to use my own personal number. Probably shouldn't have said that. But yeah, if you guys want to reach out, feel free to do that. Okay. Now, with this form submission, everything was perfectly fine. This form submission would have come through normally because there's nothing spammy about this anyway. Right up till the point where this bot also filled out the hidden input field that we have. So what I'm going to do is put in value. If this is a test message, I think this is how it's filled out. I think. So let me just click on submit. Okay, your message couldn't be sent. Let's go back to Cloudflare. There we go. Okay, yeah. So AI verdict is honeypot field was filled by bot. So that's why we've stored this. So that's number one, it injects your honeypot. Now, number two, you know how every form has a reCAPTCHA integrated into it to catch out bots? So Cloudflare also offers something similar to reCAPTCHA, and that's basically called Cloudflare Turnstile. It's actually it's injected into the form directly by our script. Again, if I head over to elements here, and ideally it's always located close to the submit button. So over here, you notice this div class CF Turnstile container. And if I click into it, you'll notice that there's this huge key here, basically a token of the sorts. And when the page loads up, it injects the Turnstile container into your form with the token generated. Whilst it's doing that, it's also checking if the person who's visiting this page is actually a bot. And if it's a bot, it immediately blocks the form and they would not be able to submit the form whatsoever. It's the same story for even when an AI is trying to submit this form. So that's what Turnstile does. So that's the second major thing. The third is if I go into Webflow, if I click on the main form element, so we have this CF form and then equals contact us. So if you have a single page with, I don't know, 4 or 5 forms in that page, you can just target it with different identifiers. You can just use different identifiers, and our script will initialize on all the forms in that same page. So this is completely scalable. You can use as many forms as you like. Our script is going to work on all those forms. I think that's the third point. And the fourth point is that you'll notice that there is this attribute here called CF form purpose. So this is basically you just write down a simple um, purpose, basically a simple note, just explaining what exactly it is that this form is and what it accomplishes. So I put in, this is a simple contact us form where we want users to reach out to us with their inquiries. However, we are not interested in submissions where people are trying to sell their services. If you're wondering why we're adding this in, this is an instruction that we set for the LLM. The LLM actually reads that and then tries to understand, like, okay, well, if there's any person trying to sell their services, we're going to block them. We have the same thing for each and every input fields as well. So we have this attribute of CF field type. Again, this is all for the LLM. This is us trying to explain to the LLM that, hey, we have this field. It's the first name. And basically, we collect the user's first name. We try to explain it to the LLM. We do the same thing for all the other fields as well. Yeah, even with the inquiry as well. The inquiry the user is making. And that's pretty much it. So the LLM has full picture on what the form is about, what the fields are trying to collect, and then it tries to understand if it should either block it or it should collect that form submission. So I'm going to reload that page one more time. And this time I'm going to use another submission here. Yeah, this is going to be I'm probably not going to try out all 5 examples because I think you guys pretty much get the idea here. All right, for the company, let's use Tech Solutions here. Okay. Now, this example here, security verification failed. I wonder why that is. Let me just reload the page one more time. Okay, so I've just filled out the entire form and let's go ahead and submit this. All right, so this time, again, the form's blocked it and let's try to figure out why that is. I'm going to try to reload this page again. Critical spam phrase detected came across your advertisement and. So our engine also has a few phrases as well. So if it detects any of those phrases, it's just going to immediately block it. I'll be honest though, you may come across a scenario where you may have to tweak the engine a little bit so that it suits and works better for your use case. Again, this engine is completely based off of the client side that I was working on. And I did tweak it to make it more general as possible, but it may miss the mark here and there. So, just a small disclaimer to be aware of. Now, on to the final 5th reason of the script is that you might have noticed that, we've been submitting all these forms and none of these forms are actually going to Webflow. All these forms are intercepted by our script. It intercepts as soon as someone clicks on submit, it grabs all the content of the form and it sends it straight over to Cloudflare. And then that's where Cloudflare processes everything. So yeah, that's the 5th coolest thing that this does. We actually don't have, so if I head over to site settings, we're not storing anything in there. So if I go over to forms, we have nothing here. So that's that. And what we're going to do is another cool thing that I'm going to do is that notice how the first name and the last name are marked as required. So I'm going to uncheck that and only have the email filled in. So let's go ahead and publish that as well. I promise this is just going to be the last demonstration and we can finally jump on to the setup itself. All right, so let's reload the page. Let's say that there might be instances where the user just wants to fill out the email. Oh, shoot. Okay, we'll just reload that again. Note to self, do not use autofill. Okay. And let's click on submit and hopefully that should go through because the LLM Okay, so the LM is also aware that this is the only required field, hence why this is the only field that has been filled in. So let's head over to storage and go to clean form submissions. And there we go. It's come through. The submission contains a valid personal email address and no nonsensical text. So yeah, pretty cool. And with that being said, that's the end of the demo. And we are finally ready to jump on to the setup and explore how you would have to set this up. Now, over on Webflow, let's really get down to how the setup is done. So what we're going to do is, again, like I mentioned before, you just need to create a form block, and then inside the form block, the main form wrapper needs to have these three attributes. So the first attribute we have is the CF form. So the CF form, yeah, you just need to put in, and for the value for it, this is going to be the identifier that you're using for the form. It doesn't have to match. It can be totally different. But yeah, just for clarity, this has to be the identifier of your form. Then we have the CF form purpose. This is where you explain what exactly this form is and what the goal for the form is. This is us passing it down as an instruction for the LLM. Yeah, I would. Now the thing is, I haven't applied any sort of technical, like a character limitation, so I would probably try to keep it short and simple. And then we finally have the CF Turnstile site key. This contains the key that is generated from Cloudflare's Turnstile. So what we're going to do is head over to Cloudflare. Once you're logged into Cloudflare, assuming that you've also created your account and everything, this is a screen that you would typically find, I guess. And the page that we're trying to get into would be right here. So under application security, you want to head over to Turnstile. And for this tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and click here. We're going to add a new widget, and I'm going to call this demo tutorial. And then what you want to do is click on add host names. So you need to add the host names where your turnstile key needs to work on. So in total, you should have two host names here. The first host name is going to be the staging URL for your Webflow site. And the second one would be the main domain, the production URL. So I'm going to copy this because I only have one for now. So I'm just going to use this here. We need to remove all this. We can finally add this in. Yep, there we go. And I'm going to go ahead and add that in. Then you have the option here called widget mode. And what you want to do is click on invisible. So this is basically asking, what sort of widget you want to initialize on your site. We just want an invisible one. We don't want the user to interact with anything. So with the invisible, you might be wondering, how does it actually work? So on the page here, like I mentioned before, so as a user lands on this page, our script basically generates a token for Turnstile, and that token can be found here. So if I go into the form, and I believe it should be close to the button. Yeah, right here. So it's right there. And what it does is, whilst it's generated the token, it also keeps an eye on how the user is scrolling up and down the page and how they're filling out the form. And that's how they can work it out if it's a bot or an actual human. So in case if you didn't know, that's how Turnstile works. So I'm going to go ahead and create this. And upon creation, you get both your site key and your secret key. Of course, you can see my secret key, but I will be removing this right after I finish recording this. So you want to copy the site key and head over to Webflow. And then you paste it in here. And that's it. That's all you need to do. Once that is done, you need to go into your inputs. Now, it's now for all the inputs, you have to put in two attributes here. So the first attribute is CF field type. So this is where you just put in the type of the field. You could just put in the identifier of your input here, but ideally I would just explain the type of this field. again, these both of these attributes are just explaining it to the LLM. So just so that the LLM understands it better, like, okay, what type of field this is and what sort of data is this field trying to collect. So over here, I have CF field type first name, and I just simply put it collect the user's first name. Same story for last name as well. Let me see what I've put in for role here. So CF field type is company role, and CF field data is collect the user's role in their company. So yeah, if you have any more questions, do let me know. I'm sure that there might be some other tricky scenarios where it might be a bit difficult to kind of understand how you decide what the field type should be. But yeah, give it a test and see how the LLM performs. But ideally, again, long story short, you want to keep the type to what the type of the field is. Hope that makes sense. And then lastly, we have the submit button. For the actual submit button, it has to be a actual button, like I mentioned before. I'm using a custom HTML element. We're using the tag of button, and it has this attribute here, CF form submit trigger. So that tells the script that this is the submit button. And then over here, we have a custom div element, which is the error wrapper. So, oh, wait, no, not this one. So inside that, there is a child element, which is the actual banner itself. If I unhide this, so there you go. You have the actual banner itself right here. Now, also another thing to note is that you have to use the class of hide, because this is also specified on the script that we're using. If you want to change this, you can. I'm going to show you in a bit on how we can do that. All right, so I'm going to unhide the error banner here for a second. So on the actual banner element, we do have an attribute. It is the CF form submit error. I think you already know why we need that attribute. And then inside, we have the text. So the text also requires an attribute as well. Pretty self-explanatory as to why that is. So I'm going to go ahead and hide that. And that is pretty much it. That's the entire setup that we have for the form. I know that the form hasn't covered radios or checkboxes and select fields, but the procedure is pretty much the same. No matter what the field is, you just apply both these attributes and then call it a day. Of course, alongside with all the other that I've mentioned. Okay, so that is it for the Webflow setup. Now, actually, if I head over to Notion now, so what I'm going to do is, so we need to copy this entire script. So what I'm going to do is copy that script and then head over to GitHub. So we need to store that script inside a GitHub repo, or you can store it inside your sandbox, code sandbox project. That's completely up to you. But in this instance, I'm going to store it in a GitHub repo. And for those of you who are not familiar with GitHub, that's absolutely fine. I'm just going to walk you through the process. And for those of you who are familiar with this, you can just skip it, because I think I'm going to have chapters enabled on this video. All right, so what you want to do is you want to create a GitHub account. And once you've created one, you need to look for a button that says new, which means creating a new repository. So what we're going to call it is YouTube, whatever you want to call this. Just for this demo, I'm going to call it YouTube demo. And everything here looks good. I'm just going to go ahead and click on creating the repository. All right, once that is done, you'll see this screen right here. You can just go ahead and click on creating a new file. So this will create your new file. And what you want to do is, I'm going to call this Cloudflare Turnstile handler.js. So very important that you include .js in there. And then once that's done, you paste in your entire script here. So a lot of things are happening on the script. I'm not going to get into the weeds of it, but like I've mentioned, it just intercepts the form and it just sends everything to Cloudflare. That's all you need to know. However, there are a few things that you have to look out for. You'll notice that there's this form configuration. we have this URL, which actually needs to be changed in just a bit, and we're going to do that. And then we have all these selectors. You can just ignore all these selectors. This is not an issue. One thing I want to point out is that we have this thing called loading text, which is sending. Whenever someone is sending the form, we change the text inside the submit button to sending. If you want this to say something else, you can simply change that here, just an FYI. And you can ignore all this. Oh yeah, and there we go. We have the class of hide. So this is the hide class that we're using for the error banner. You can change this into something else if you like, whatever that you're using on your project. But yeah, let's go ahead and commit those changes. But before we do, we're just going to wait for Copilot to come up with the commit message. Okay, so that is done. What you want to do now is head over to YouTube demo here. So it's going to bring you to this screen. And what you want to do is go to this option here, releases, create a new release. And we're just going to say, we're going to click on a new tag, call it 0.0.1. And we're creating a tag. So every time you find yourself updating your script, it's a good practice to apply a tag to it. And I'll show you the benefit for that in a bit. So for the release title, I'm just going to put in adding in Cloudflare Turnstile handler script. And for the description, I'm going to put in the same thing, and I'm going to go ahead and click on publish release. And there we go. We now have, so if I go back to YouTube demo, we have our script and we have the tag for this as well. Now that the YouTube side of it is done, what we're going to do is head over to Notion again. So Cloudflare Turnstile handler.js is completed. We can now move on to the spam detection engine. And we're going to copy that. And then we're going to head back into Cloudflare. Now, this time, what I'm going to do is head over to this page right here, this option right here, compute and AI. We want to head over to workers and pages. So what we're going to do is create a new Cloudflare worker. If you're not familiar with what a Cloudflare worker is, it's basically a, like it mentions here, a serverless function. It's a serverless function where you can store JavaScript in it, and it can perform any activity that, depending on the JavaScript function that it has. So in our case, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, click on create a new application, and click here. We're going to start off with a template. I'm going to call this YouTube demo. And that's pretty much it. And I'm going to go ahead and deploy this. And just like that, our worker is ready. This is our worker. And what we're going to do is we're going to go inside the edit code. And this is the JavaScript. So I'm going to remove that. And I'm going to paste in our JavaScript here, which is this really long script. This is the main engine right here. And this is where we also have the LLM. And I'm going to walk you through just a little bit of what's exactly happening in a bit. And what we're going to do is click on deploy and deploy this worker. All right, now that we have our Cloudflare worker deployed, we need to go into settings because there are a few things that we need to set up. Okay, so if you look at the variables and secrets, we need to add in our turnstile site key secret here. So the way we're going to do that is we need to click on secret. We're going to call it turnstile secret key. Now, it's very important that you call this exactly what you see here. That's because we're referencing this variable name in our script. So for the value, you need to put in the value that we had when we generated our turnstile key. So I'm going to open up another tab here and head over to application and security, head over to turnstile. So for the demo tutorial, I'm going to go ahead, click on edit. And you'll notice that this is a secret key. We want to show this. Let's copy that head over to the other tab and paste it in here. There we go. Now we have our turnstile secret key. So just to give you an explainer, you know how our Webflow site generates a token? That token is passed over to Cloudflare, and then Cloudflare basically uses that token to figure out whether or not this is a bot or an actual human. So that's why we need to do this step here. Okay, so once our Cloudflare worker is deployed, we want to head over here. So you notice that we have a URL. So you want to copy this URL. So this is the worker URL. And then you want to head back to GitHub because we need to insert that URL inside the script here. So let's open this up. And let me just paste this in. So if you open this, so if you copy this, so we need to paste it in here. There we go. So I can just remove that. And there we go. Now we have our new worker URL. So let's go ahead and commit those changes. Update worker URL in configuration. I'm going to copy that and commit those changes. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is head over to YouTube demo. And now I'm going to add in another tag because we've made changes to our script. So I'm going to click on releases. And oh, okay. Yeah, there we go. Draft a new release. And I'm going to call it 0.0.2. Create a new tag. Update worker URL in configuration. Set that. And then we'll publish that release. And there we go. Now, we have a working script. So what we're going to do is create a CDN.js URL out of this URL here so that we can use that in our Webflow project. So this is where you need to head over to CDN.js deliver, and you just need to follow this format here. So I think it's that. Oh, wait, no. So if you go over to GitHub, we want to copy this. Now, this is the temp. So this is the URL structure that you need to follow. In our case, let's see. So we have this up to here is fine. You need to replace this with your account name. So in my case, this is Onnoi. And then you have the repo at version. Okay, so you need to put in the name of the repo. So let me just copy this and head over to GitHub. So this is the username. And then this is the name of the repo, which is YouTube-demo. So I put that in. YouTube-demo. And then you need to put in the version of the file. So in our case, it's 0.0.2 because that's the latest version of the file that we've been using. And then you need to use the name of the file. So over here, the name is Cloudflare Turnstile handler.js. So if I press enter, and there we go, we have our script loading up. So that's the script that we need to use inside Webflow. And as you can see, it also contains the new worker URL from Cloudflare that we've inserted in here. So you want to copy this script and head over to Webflow. All right, so head over to site settings. Go to custom code. And then over here where you see this, you just replace it with your new script that you've just created. For now, I'm going to go ahead and actually remove that. That's just something that I was working with. Okay, so yeah, once you've replaced the script on Webflow, everything on Webflow is done and everything on Cloudflare is also set up. So it's just a matter for you to start testing everything out. Okay, now we're very close to wrapping up on our tutorial. So the last stage of this wrap up would be inside of Cloudflare. So let's head over there. Okay, so inside Cloudflare, you'll notice that we have the workers and pages, and we're currently looking at our current worker. And we need to bind the search engine, the spam detection engine to a table, to a database table and a worker AI. So what we need to do is head over to uh, okay, so we need to head over to this option right here, storage and database. And then you want to head over to D1 SQL database because we need to create a table where we store both clean and spam form submissions. I've already created one, but again, I'm creating this just to show you how the setup is actually done. So I'm going to call this form tutorial demo. Kind of a long one, but this should be good. All right, so once that's done, you can create a table. So if you click here, you can manually create all these columns here. You can add these columns and you can add as many columns as you want. And then you can also define the type of column it's going to be. But in our case, we're just going to do things slightly differently. We're not going to do this. If you go back to your Notion doc, and I'm just going to hide this and scroll all the way down, you'll notice that I've included these two functions here. So what you can do is you can just copy this portion of here, the top portion, go back to Cloudflare, and you can click on this option that says explore data. So you just paste that in. And so over here, you can just click on run. And what this does, it basically runs this function and it's going to create a table for you with all these columns in here. So if you go back to your table here and click on form tutorial demo, you'll notice that clean form submissions is there. And if you click right into it, you'll notice that you have all these columns here created at form ID, form purpose, form data, IP address of the user agent, referrer. I mean, again, all these are very self-explanatory. So again, what I'm going to do is go back to Notion and copy this as well. So this is going to be for our spam form submissions. Go ahead, click on explore data, run, and there we go. Same story. So let's go ahead and click on the table here. And there we go. We have both our tables here. That's perfect. Now that we have our database set up, we can go back to our worker and pages. You can either access it from here or you can access that from here. And then, so we want to go here, YouTube demo. That's the one that we just created. And we want to bind our database to our detection engine. So whenever the detection engine processes that form, we want it to store that into our database. So let's go ahead and click there. And then you want to select D1 database. It's already been there. So let's click on add binding. So it's going to ask you two things. It's going to ask for the name of the variable and the D1 database that you want to select. So for this, we are going to select form tutorial demo. Now, in the actual script, in these engine, I'm actually using the variable name of form. So just so you know, you might want to use this if you plan on using the same script as the one here. You might want to consider using this variable name. Otherwise, if you use a different variable name, you have to go back to the script engine to change that variable name. So you want to go ahead and add that binding in to your worker. So we're going to wait for that to load up. All right, perfect. So that's done. And then you want to click on add binding again. Okay. So not database. Okay, so all right, let me just cancel that. And okay, so this time, now that we've added in the database, we also need to add in the AI as well to this engine. So over here, you'll notice that there's this option called Workers AI. So click on that, add the binding. Now for this variable name, I'm calling it AI with caps, both caps here, AI, and just simply add that binding in here. And that being said, there we go. We now have both the D1 database, the database connected, and the AI connected as well. So let me just walk you through a little bit about the Workers AI. So if you go into Workers AI here, it shows you your usage. And as you can see, I'm currently using OpenAI's GPT OSS 120 billion parameters. So I'm using this specific model here. If you didn't know, so Claude Cloudflare offers a lot of other models. If you actually go here, you can check it out yourself. You don't necessarily have to use the same model that I'm using here, but my reason for using a GPT model is because the spam detection engine is very complicated. It has a complicated set of rules, and to really understand how it needs to behave, you actually have to use a powerful LLM. My primary choice was to use Llama 3 8 billion instruct because that's a very good model, but it completely failed. It just did not perform well. My second one was Mistral, but again, Mistral was underperforming and it just would not take in the instructions at all. So yeah, most of these, I tried a lot of it. None of it really worked except for GPT. Now, another thing to keep in mind is that because we're using OpenAI's GPT model, it's very expensive, both in terms of computational and processing and like everything. Because it uses up a lot of resources, it's quite expensive. Now, I'm currently on Cloudflare's free plan, and Cloudflare is quite generous. And at the starting of this video, I did mention that you get to use this all for free. And at the moment, you can see that it's counting everything in terms of neurons. Again, I don't know what neurons are, but I can tell you this, that with every form submission, typically it takes about 105 neurons per form. So if the calculation is correct, every day, you have an allowance of about 90 to 100 forms a day. So you have 10,000 neurons. You have a free limit of 10,000 neurons per day. So that means that is around, again, 90 to 100 forms, or it could be more in your case, but that would be the realistic number. So again, that's actually pretty good. Those numbers are really good. If I whip out the calculator so I can show you how I am getting that. So let's say 10,000 divided by 105. So yeah, you're getting about 95 form submissions in a single day. So that's how this is actually being made possible. So yeah, that actually brings us to the end of the actual tutorial itself. But before I sign off, I did promise you guys that I will walk you through the engine and also tell you guys how you need to edit the script for it. So that will help. Okay, so the engine itself, there's actually so there's two layers to this engine. We have the spam detection engine, and then on top of that, we have the AI sitting on top of it. So the spam detection engine is very simple and plain. It's just looking for problematic things like sometimes spammers use first name and last name. They use the same name for both first and last name. So those kind of things count as spam. And those are the kind of things that the spam detection engine is looking for. There are also instances where the engine is looking for typos. The engine is looking for repetition of words using over and over again. And then there are instances where the engine is looking for processes where the user might be talking about nonsense kind of stuff or using numbers a lot, like phone numbers in fields that are not meant to be phone numbers. So these sort of simple variables, the spam detection engine is very good at catching those out. The AI comes in at the sophisticated kind of spam forms where you wouldn't actually be able to tell if it's a spam form, but the AI can. So you'll notice that I've actually included a lot of context inside the script here. So if you're just kind of, running your eyes through the script, it kind of tells you what you're looking at. Most of these are quite advanced, but over here you can tell that clean, if it's a clean form submission, it's going to store that in our database, and then it's going to return a success message. And then here we have the turnstile validation. Like I mentioned before, we have the token inside Webflow. Webflow provides that to Cloudflare, and then Cloudflare processes that. And then this is where the actual magic happens. Here we have the settings for the AI right here. Now, in your case, you might have to edit a few things here and there. So if I scroll down a little bit, um, so you'll notice that there are quite a few bits of functions here. So these are all the different rules that we're using. Let me just check if okay, yeah. So you'll notice that we have an array of all the phrases that are typically used by spammers. You can add to this, but my advice to you would be to take this script that you have here, the worker script, and the script that we have on Webflow, take those two scripts and run it by an AI of your choice so that the AI can help you with scripting this better. So if you feel like you need to tweak something so that it suits your client site better, yeah, just run these two scripts through an AI, and that should be able to help you out. That's exactly what I did, to be honest. And so, yeah, these are all like the words that it kind of looks out for. I'm just kind of going through this and seeing what sort of, yeah, so over here we have generic spam phrases. Again, you can add more to this, but yeah, that's totally up to you. So these are typically what I noticed that spammers use quite a lot. So, and if you scroll down further, over here, you will notice this is where we start the AI rules and everything. So over here, these are all the instructions that we're passing on to the AI. These are all the instructions right here. And you can add more to it. You can remove some of it, completely up to you. So this is extremely important. Yeah, so look at all these instructions. All these instructions are for the AI. So this was something that the other LLMs were struggling at because of the sheer amount of complicated instructions that they had to adhere to. They weren't performing so well. So that's why ChatGPT is the clear winner. But other than that, that's pretty much it. That's what the spam detection engine does. If you go over to our Notion document, and if you actually just go through this notes here, that's for you. And for your LLM, you need to send this to your LLM as well. So like I mentioned, share the Cloudflare JS, share the spam engine, and then share this technical reference with your LLM. And then your LLM will be caught up with how the engine works, and it will be able to help you tweak it better for your use case. And that's pretty much it, really, for the tutorial. That being said, if you have any questions or if you're stuck anywhere, please reach out to me via email or Discord or Twitter as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And oh, one last note is that this entire setup is only 80%. The remaining 20% is up to you. So what I mean by that is, you know, you got a spam detection engine that stores all your forms, but you also have to set up you also have to set up a flow for where the Cloudflare worker is going to store the clean form submissions in a database of your choice. And it also has to store also notify the client email as well by email. So those are some of the things that you have to be aware of. Yeah, again, the logic for that is going to be, again, inside this worker script here. So yeah, that's something that you would have to put in. Now, if you need help with that, again, reach out to me. I would be happy to help. So with that being said, I'm going to end the tutorial here and have a great day. And thank you for watching.